Hey folks, I'm Dennis. Today I'm going to show you how to go through some of the maintenance functions on a Husqvarna YTH 22V46 lawn tractor. I'm going to use the operator's manual and the maintenance chart that's in that manual to walk you through some of the basic maintenance steps to help you keep your tractor in top condition. Thanks for watching my video. Let's get started. The first things you're going to need is a grease gun. And it's a whole lot easier if you've got one with a flexible grease line on it rather than a hard line. Some of them have a solid steel line. It's a little bit difficult to get to some of the grease points without a flexible line. So grease rag, oil rag of some kind, paper towel, something so that you can wipe the zerk fittings off with. There's a minimum of 5 grease points on a tractor. Depending on your spindles, there may be 7, and I'll walk you through each one of those. First thing you want to grease on each side of the tractor is the front spindles. This is just inside the front tire. There's one on each side. These fittings are called zerk fittings, and they've got a small ball bearing right in the front of it to keep the grease from coming out and allow new grease to come in. What you always want to do is wipe that off so you don't push any grit or grime into the fitting. And what this does is this greases the axle, the spindle for the turning of the front tires. So you pop that on there, make sure it's on there good and tight. Give it a couple of pumps with your grease gun. And then I like to wipe them off when I'm done just so I don't gather a bunch of grime and crud on the fitting. So there's one of those on each side, so that's 2. The other place on each side you want to grease is the front wheel hub. You've got a zerk fitting right here on the front wheel that greases the wheel hub onto the axle. So again, you want to wipe that off real well. Take your grease gun, plug it onto that zerk, make sure it stays on there. And then give it a couple of pumps. Normally all you got to do is a couple of pumps on these things. If you do this maintenance every 25 hours as the book recommends, 1 or 2 pumps of grease is going to be all you need. That'll be plenty. Now the next place you want to lubricate is the steering sector. So to grease the steering sector, what you want to do is let the mower deck all the way down if it's not out from under the mower, so you can get up in there. And then you can see up under here, right here where the gear teeth are, and right here where the gear is, that's at the bottom of the steering column, and then this quadrant is what turns the tie rods to the wheels. So what you do is you're going to just get some grease on your finger and grease this and grease this. I just squirt some grease out of my grease gun onto my finger. So take a little bit of grease from the grease gun and smear it around that gear. It doesn't have to be a whole lot. You don't want it glopping off onto your deck or anything like that. And then take another bit and put it around these teeth. Again, it doesn't have to be a lot. What you're trying to do is just sorry, I can't really see up underneath here and film at the same time. There we go. So you just want to spread a little bit of grease on those teeth and on this gear here. And then what I would recommend doing is turning the wheel lock to lock just to distribute that grease a little bit on the gears, and then that'll be lubricated just fine. For most tractors, that's all of the grease points that you have. Now some tractors, you have grease fittings, particularly if you replace the spindles, on top of the spindles here. some of the spindles will have a grease fitting on the side underneath this pulley. So to get those, you have to pull the deck out. If you've got them on the top like mine, the reason I have these is because I replaced my spindles, and I intentionally replaced them with greasable fittings, or with grease fittings. So you do the same thing with these. You come in here with your flexible line, or you pull your deck out and pop your grease gun on there and give it a couple of pumps. Do that every 25 hours or so. And that's it for the greasing, for lubrication. Okay, a few of the other things you want to do, just as general maintenance. You want to check your battery terminals. Your battery is under the seat. You want to make sure that your terminals are not corroded and nasty. So they're fine. No corrosion there on either one. So that's good to go. Most of the batteries are sealed, so you don't have to worry about checking the levels anymore. Before I put mine up for winter, I always clean off the deck real well. One of the things that I do not like at all about this tractor is these pulley guards that are on the deck. They accumulate all kinds of crud around behind them and around the pulleys, and then there's a well that those spindles set in, and you get all kinds of clippings and dirt and everything else up underneath there, so it's really difficult to clean that out. What I do is I lower my deck all the way down and I hose it out, and I usually do that after every use anyway, but before I put it up for winter especially, I hose all that out. If it's real thick, I've either got to reach up in there and get it out and then finish hosing it out, or just take the deck out from under the tractor. I've got another video that shows you how to do that if you need to do it, and then get it really clean and then put it back. If you take the deck out, it's a good time to clean up underneath too and inspect your blades and everything. It's one of the other maintenance items that I would recommend is watch my other video about how to change the mower deck blades. I would check the nuts on them to make sure they're tight about every 25 hours, just to be sure you're not running with loose blades. So the next thing I'd recommend to do is check the inflation on the rear and the front tires. For the rear tires on this tractor, the recommended max pressure is 10 psi, and for the factory front tires it's 14 psi. I replaced my fronts with foam tires. They're non-inflatable, so I don't have to worry about it on my front. The back I keep right around 10. The other things that I recommend doing is getting up underneath the between the deck and the rear wheels with a hose, kind of spraying to the back and spray off the top of the transmission. That's where the cooling fins are. It keeps those clean, keeps the transmission from getting hot, especially if you're going to run the tractor a long time during the day. If you really want to get to it, you can flip the seat up, disconnect the battery, take the battery out, and then the battery box has a couple of tabs on the side of it, here and here, that you can pull out and pull the whole battery box out, and then you can get to the top of the transmission and hose it off real well. Check the oil. Most everybody knows how to check their oil. If you don't, check my oil change video on the tractor, and then also check or change the air filter, and I've got a video on that too. I usually will hose out the engine compartment just to get everything kind of cleaned off, no debris, no clippings, junk like that in there, because it gets pretty nasty. That'll help keep the engine a little bit cooler too. So that's about it for basic maintenance. There are some other things that you can do on less frequent intervals, and I'll get into those on another video. Alright, so that's it, folks. That's how you kind of go through and do the basic maintenance on your tractor. The other thing that I do when I put mine away for the winter is I will run it out of gas. I don't like to leave gas sitting in the carburetor all winter. Anyway, that's up to your own personal preference, but that's what I do. I run mine dry and then park it. Well, park it and run it dry. I really appreciate you watching my video. Thanks for visiting my channel. If you would, give me a like below. Subscribe to my channel if you see things that interest you. And hopefully share some of my videos around. I really appreciate it. It helps me out a lot. Thanks, and I hope to see you back soon.